My name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skiing, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Mianjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hello, Luke. Welcome back to the podcast.
Good morning, Mark. Thanks for having me. No, Ryan.
No, Ryan, you will have noticed, which isn't unusual, but possibly the reason why Ryan's today. Date of release is Wednesday in Australia, Wednesday the 20th of May, which is actually World Bee Day. It highlights the importance of bees and other pollinators.
He does speak about that day. He was saying that day is coming up, so I know he's very excited for the bee.
Yeah, I think he recently has gone into is it Avery? Yeah, beekeeping. And actually, Ryan must have already been out and robbed some hives, because I think he is joining us shortly. He's just sent me a message. Yeah, it's exciting.
The official part, but we'll get the intro done.
We will get the intro done. So Ryan will be joining us shortly. He's just finishing up celebrating World Bee Day. Here he is. We'll just let him in.
Just robbing some hives.
Yeah, he's getting his fresh morning shot of honey.
I think his partner isn't very happy with him because he brings them into their house. He was saying that to me once.
Yeah.
Morning, mate. How are the bees?
What's up, boys? How are we?
We're straight on to the recording, mate. We're talking about bees this morning.
We're World Bee Day, Ryan. I know you've just been out robbing some hives and getting some fresh honey.
You know me.
Yeah, we do know you. You're a man of many, many talents, as people will hear over our time if they're regular listeners. Let's jump straight into the clues. Let's not keep our guests waiting any further. Clue number one, Luke will know this from a previous recording. When we have a small town, I'm actually going to the nearest major city. So we're looking for a city today. I'm sure you guys would have definitely heard of this city. Clue number one, this city hosts an annual festival once involved in cracking eggs filled with confetti over people's heads. Quite random, kind of like World Bee Day, but pretty random. It's a major city, hosts an annual event which involves cracking eggs filled with confetti over people's heads.
That's pretty random.
Said to bring good luck and affection. I had to obviously look into why people did that. No idea?
No idea.
Play along at home as always. It'll get hopefully a little bit easier. Clue number two, this city has a National Historic Park that is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. National Historical Park.
I feel like we've had this clue before, actually.
Something similar, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the smallest park.
Possibly.
I think that was near Oklahoma.
Yeah, right.
That way.
Yeah,
I still don't know if we're in the UK.
I'll give you this. We're in the States. Major city in the States.
This reeks of something like just boring, like Los Angeles.
Oh, not Los Angeles.
Damn it.
Guess.
That wasn't my guess, though.
Okay. Third and final clue and guess. This city has one of the largest Mexican-American populations in the US.
Mexican-American.
It's going to be
like San Diego.
You can go for LA again if you like, but it's...
San Diego's right on the border, and Texas... yeah.
Like San Antonio?
Yeah, it's got to be one of those. It's in one of those states.
So what are you going for? San Diego? What did Luke say? San Antonio?
San Antonio.
You running with Luke or Ryan? Let's go there.
Go, Luke. I screwed mine up.
It's the blind leading the blind over here, mate.
Luke nailed it. Well done, Luke.
Oh my God.
I tried to throw you off. What did Luke say? San Antonio.
In
So
my
the
head, I was like, it's probably not San Antonio. It's like 8 other better
should have
answers.
rubbish. Lucky you didn't outwardly just hammer him. Fiesta San Antonio. And as I mentioned, the cracking of confetti eggs is said to bring good luck and affection. San Antonio's Mission National Historical Park is the UNESCO World Heritage Site, and approximately 916,000 to over 950,000. That's the range. Hispanic residents within the city proper. That was as of 2020 to 2024 data. Representing roughly 64 to 65% of the population, no doubt has grown since then. San Antonio is about a 33-minute drive from the town our guests are in today, which is why I went to a major city. You probably haven't heard of this smaller town, Bulverde in Texas. Bulverde is a small hill country city north of San Antonio, known for its rural charm, growing suburban communities, and nicknamed the front porch of the Texas Hill Country. Our guests today are two guests, actually, excitingly, a nurse practitioner and an entrepreneur. So we're welcoming to the podcast Nick and Cassie Rogers. So welcome to the Remembering Them podcast officially. Nick and Cassie, thank you very much for joining us all the way over from Texas, just outside of San Antonio. We recorded in the intro. You'll hear that back when we release this, but thanks for working out the time difference and joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
If you'd like to just jump straight in, I know there's a couple of people that we're talking about today, and it's a full house. We've got Luke and Ryan here with us as well, which is exciting. But if you'd like to give us a bit of a spiel, I guess, on who we're talking about today, your relationship to them, and what happened to those special people.
You want me to start?
Go ahead.
So Nick and I both lost our spouses to cancer. We lived just 10 miles apart from each other, and kind of were living parallel lives, but never knew each other at the time. So my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at 39 years old. From the time of diagnosis till death was 66 days. So it's super aggressive, and really, fast tracked. So we moved actually to a different city. We moved to Houston because they kind of have like cutting edge, technology and treatment in order to try to save his life. But unfortunately, it's one of the most deadly cancers, and despite our efforts, he didn't make it. So he left behind 4 kids. They were 14, 12, 10, and 9 when he passed away. Tell about Anna.
And my wife's name was Anna. She was diagnosed in 2018. At that time, I was coaching at Cedar Park High School up in the Austin area, and we had 2 little girls. So our story's a little different. It was a 3.5-year journey. And I eventually got the head football coaching job here, which is what brought my family here at Piper High School. And once we moved here in 2021, Anna kind of quickly started rapidly declining because she had stage 3 triple negative breast cancer was the original diagnosis. And so started there, chemo, double mastectomy, the usual. Then we were good for about a year and a half, and then it spread to her brain. And then from there, it just started to spread everywhere from her spine and liver. And that's when she eventually passed away in 2023. Yeah, sorry, I'm terrible with dates. Cassie has to correct me sometimes. So ours was a 3.5-year journey, and like I said, we had 2 girls that are now
9 and 12.
9 and 12. Yeah.
They were 5 and 9 when she passed away.
No.
Yeah. Don't feel bad Nick, it's often, I mean, it's like that in our household, and I think stereotypically in most couples where um, females generally being the attention to details and can remember ages and dates and the details of things. So you're totally fine. How would you buy? And I mean, I guess the question that jumps to mind is, did that the grief or your experiences with grief bring you together, or how did you guys meet? Which is normally a question that Luke asked, but what did that look like?
You me to go first?
Yeah, I like that order.
Okay. So interestingly enough, Nick's wife Anna had reached out to me. I think when she knew, because our story was really public, and we live like in two neighboring small communities, and so she knew of our story. And I think like when you're going through a tragedy like that, or like when like, and I did this when I became a widow, like you start looking for like-minded people, and so. Um, I was very public with our story and kind of what that looked like. And so she reached out to me on social media and told me that she was scared, not for herself, but just for her kids and for her husband. And she said, it seems from a distance like y'all are doing so well. Your kids seem to be happy. You talk about your faith a lot and your ability to be able to move forward is honorable, and I want to make sure that my family is going to be okay. Um, and so actually the first contact was his wife and I, and we communicated through Facebook. We never met, but we communicated through Facebook, and she shared a lot of her fears about dying and leaving behind her family with me. And so I started sending them gifts. I started sending them food, things that people had done for me when my husband was sick. I started just paying forward, not just to them, but to other widows, or other people fighting cancer, even like in our surrounding community. So um, that was really the first point of contact. My husband passed away a year before Anna did. So they were still in this battle while we were grieving. So um, my so kind of fast forward a little bit, like their story became pretty public the sicker that she got. And two of my family members actually came to me and they were like, have you thought about like meeting this Nick Rogers guy? And at the time, I wasn't ready. So I was like, no, like his wife literally just passed away. I was to a point where I had grieved and like our life was kind of, continuing to move forward with four kids and being super busy, but that never really crossed my mind. Um, until it did. And there was a point where I knew that I didn't want to be alone for forever. And actually, one of the last things that my husband um, asked of me and of several of the men in our family was for me to find a man who loved Jesus. And he said that's the most important thing to me, that he loves Jesus and he will continue to be a leader for you and make sure that our kids love and know Jesus so that I can see them again someday. Um, and at the time, I was actually mad at him that he told me that because I was like, you're dying and I don't want to talk about this. But it became one of the biggest blessings to me because I knew that he loved me so much that he wanted what was best for me and his kids. Because, like, statistically, kids that grow up with a dad or without a dad, like they just don't do as well. So at the point that my heart shifted, I was like, okay, like I think I'm ready to listen to what he wanted me to do, anyways. And I'm to the point where like I'm open to it. But I almost thought that I was gonna like sarcastically like box myself in so much that it wouldn't be a possibility. Um, in as far as like my criteria, but um, when I was doing counseling with all of my kids, and the counselor was like, I have to ask you this, and I'm gonna ask you in front of the kids because I know it's gonna make you mad, but we have to talk about it. Um, are you going to date again? And I was like, no. And he said, well, yes, you are. So I want you to name 5 characteristics of the man that you would consider dating. And I listed them all out. And like, so when Nick and I, and I'll let him talk about when he reached out to me. But when we started talking, I asked him those 5 questions. And when he started answering every one of them to what my answer was, I was like, oh my gosh, I think that this is the man that I'm going to marry. So you can go ahead now.
Okay, so my experience is a little different. I knew a little bit of Cody and Cassie's story. My wife Anna did more what Cassie described. Like she kept up with a lot of similar stories to hers, where I didn't. That was not something that I really wanted to. I guess I was looking at it every single day, up close and personal, and so like I wasn't on social media. I was actually very against social media, so like I just I was a caretaker, a head football coach, and just trying to do my best to keep my head above water, if I'm being honest. And so I had no idea that they had ever even spoken a word to each other until after Anna passed away. Um, Anna's actually the one that even told me about them because, like she said, their story was very public. They were 10 minutes down the road. She showed me a news story, a local news story that had been run on Cassie and Cody, and this is after Cody had passed away, and that was kind of it. And then I came home one night after a game, and it was late at night, and I saw this care package on our nightstand, and it had this blanket and a few other items. And I just asked Anna, I was like, "Who's that from?" And she said, "It's from that Cassie Fuller girl." And I remember thinking, like, her husband died of cancer, and here she is sending you this package, and that made a mark on me, because it really made me question myself, because like I'm a believer and a man of faith, and I'm like, I don't know that I could do the same thing. If my wife had just died, and like I'd be thinking about other people and sending them these care packages and this, that, and the other, and that was kind of it. And I didn't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about it beyond that. And so then, fast forward, Anna passes away in January of 23. And I mean, at that time, like I'm just thinking about being a single dad, head football coach, everything that looks like in that role. I'm like, how am I going to do this? And so my mind was really not on anything beyond that, of just one day at a time. Um, Now, with that being said, I felt like, because that made such an impression on me, that at some point in time, I didn't know what it would look like, that at some point I would reach out to her, because I knew that she had already done it, like she's already living through it. And I had a lot of questions, and I felt so alone, because not just because your spouse dies, but, as much as people want to empathize with you and relate to you, they really can't, and like for the first time in your life, like you feel like you're in a room full of people, and you're all alone. And I remember going to grief share for the first time and really experiencing that, of I'm sitting there with a bunch of people that are 20, 30 years older than me, and not to take anything away from them losing their spouse or somebody special to them, but they've lived a full life, and like their kids were grown and out of the house, and they've been married for 50, 60 years. and they lost their spouse. And I was sitting there and I just remember thinking like, I can't relate to this, and so that it hit me in that moment of there's not a lot out there for people our age as far as support and things like that. And so again, I knew at some point I would reach out to Cassie of just like, all right, you're already living through this. You have 4 kids, to my 2. Give me any kind of advice. And so I reached out. It was July 3rd. I remember because I was on vacation with all of my family. And just, I don't know. It was 6 months after Anna had passed away, which I know seems fast to a lot of people. But for me, again, I didn't really have a ton of expectations at that time, other than I just felt like God was telling me, like, reach out. And so I messaged her on Facebook. Well, first I had to create a Facebook account. So let me start with that because I didn't have social media.
That
And I knew,
sucks. I'm sorry, man.
yeah, no, I mean, I knew that was my only way that I could really organically reach out to her. Um, because I was a public figure in our community. Their story was so public. Her husband was a public figure in the community. It's actually funny if like you've ever watched Friday Night Lights, like the 2 schools where I coached and where he played are the 2 rival schools. And so
Oh,
that's a
wow.
whole thing in itself that we won't spend a ton of time, but that's true too. So like I had to be like very careful with how like I did this. So created the Facebook account, Messenger. I remember it's like 10:30 at night and like I'm going to bed with how old was Layton at the time? 6, 5. Yeah, so my 5-year-old like laying next to me. I'm like, I'm just gonna message her, what the heck? And she responds instantly. And it stunned me because again, I really had I guess my expectation was she was not gonna respond because what she didn't share was like her Facebook literally still said she's married. And I'm like, clearly you're not married. I know that you're not married, like, and so like for me, that's not what I was presenting, but she was still very much presenting like married, don't approach me, whatever. And so I just messaged her anyways, start talking. And so within 5 minutes, really probably sooner than that, probably the first couple sentences and responses from her, I just felt this like sense of relief because it was the first conversation I'd been a part of where I'm like, you get it. Like I don't have to explain this to you. You totally understand where I'm coming from. And yeah, 5, 10 minutes in the conversation, it's like, all right, this is different. And so we ended up talking that night for what, 3.5, 4 hours?
Like till 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it's like 4:30 a.m. Just messaging back and forth. My daughter's sleeping next to me. And I mean, not anything like, do you want to go on a date or anything like that? Like, I literally didn't even ask her on a date in that conversation. Because I was so timid, I think, still of just filling it out. And, she gives me a hard time when I say that I had no expectations because she's always like, yes, you did. I'm like, "No, I really didn't." And I think that's kind of the proof is I didn't even ask her on a date or anything. Like, we just kind of left it. And it's like, it's 4:30 a.m. Great conversation. Got to go to bed. And so I wake up the next morning actually from a message from her. And because I think I had asked her something stupid like,
He had asked me like in 8 different ways, do I like coffee? Do
yeah,
I like to go to coffee places?
yeah,
Have I ever been to this coffee place? And I was like,
that's what it was.
dude, come on. So I woke up before him and I just sent him a message and I was like, if you're gonna ask me on a date, just ask me to coffee.
Yeah. And she said, I think she was even so direct. She was like, do you want to go to coffee when you get back? And I was like, I would love that. And so, yeah, we set that up and
You should have said
uh,
no. Should have been like, no, I just like coffee. What would-
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, so I mean, my husband was like literally the only guy I had ever dated. I met him when I was 15. And so I was like, here I am, broken goods, a middle-aged woman with 4 kids. Like nobody's ever gonna want to date me, let alone marry me. Like I come with so much baggage. Plus, I don't even know how to date. Like it's been so long, I'm gonna be so weird. And so I was like so direct. And I almost felt like I'm going to try and run this guy off, because if I can't, then clearly I know this is like meant to be. But yeah, so we messaged each other for 3 days. We were both on vacation. I was with um, my former in-laws. He was with his parents. And we were like, well, maybe we're going to secretly talk to each other for a couple of months, get to know each other, because there's so many kids involved. Like, we don't want to meet and muddy any water for any of these babies who have gone through so much. Um, but we talked for 3 days, and then he was like, we have to meet. And so I went to his house at like 8 o'clock at night after he put his kids to bed, because mine were all older. Um, and they could stay home asleep by themselves. They were actually out of town. The first time they had been out of town without me. And so I was like, it's perfect. I can come over. We sat on his back porch and we talked till like 5 in the morning. So we quickly, I mean, within 2 weeks, he took his little girls and my oldest daughter to go pick out a ring. And then within 5 weeks, we were engaged. And we got married shortly after that. So everything went really, really quick. We made a lot of people mad because it wasn't the timeline that they wanted. And they didn't feel comfortable with it. But for both of us, like, I was married for 18 years, he was married for 13 years. Like, we were happy and in successful, like, good marriages. We didn't want our marriages to end, but they did, and it was out of our control. So when we had the opportunity at Love again, and we knew that it was perfect and divine, we're like, why are we gonna wait? And actually, our kids were begging us to get married. They were like, why are y'all waiting? Why are you waiting? Because we were gonna get married like in 6 months. And they were like, can y'all just get married now? And we both were like, I don't know. And like a couple days later, we were like, yeah, we can. We're just gonna get married. Like, we don't have to follow anybody else's timeline.
Yeah,
Did
and
anyone?
what?
Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Nick. I was going to say,
Well,
no, no,
one thing.
you go. I'll come back.
Oh,
Okay, I'm sorry.
he has a question. Ask a question.
No, no,
Well, hold
you're the
on.
guest.
Yeah,
I'm just
one
a
thing I was going to
moderator.
add to that I think is interesting to the story is the parallels that we desired separate from one another before we had ever spoken a word, before we had ever met. And one of those was because of everything that we had lived through, because of everything that our kids had gone through as well, our ages, our beliefs, is we weren't going to date really. Like there's, and like we try to explain that to people too. And like if I was going to talk to someone, it was going to be like really serious. This is it, or I'm not wasting my time. Like I'm not hopping back into the dating scene at 37 or 38 years old, however old I was, with two kids. I just wasn't going to do that. And so I think that's why it was so speedy to some people is because we were already on the same page without even knowing it of we're not going to waste our time like dating and doing all the things. We know what we want if that person exists, and we quickly discovered that that person was each other, and we were praying for the same things, and it was an unbelievable thing, like how many of those things were checked off for each of us independently. So that's all I can say.
When did you guys get engaged? What year? Sorry.
It was August of 2023.
2023. That's right. Did you guys when you announced to kind of everybody that you guys were together or whatever, did anyone really close to you voice any disapproval that really kind of cut deep, or not really? Was everyone pretty supportive?
No.
Yeah, it was
It was kind of a mass exodus, honestly, which was super shocking and surprising to us. So I mean, really, the easiest thing to do is to tell you who's still in our life, which is
What?
our immediate family. Like, even like
Wow.
our really, really close friends, they couldn't handle it. And the reason why is because Like my friends see him as Cody's replacement, and it's just too hard for them. And we understand that. And at first it was really hard. I mean, because it was like kind of dynamite blew up in our face because we felt like people would be very supportive because of all the loss that we went through, and we were both young. But it was actually the complete opposite. So, and that was part of like our timeline, was that we were doing that because that's what, was going to appease other people. But then in the grand scheme of things, I think if you really look at any family unit, they make decisions based on their wife, or their husband, wife, and kids, and like you don't really let the external things dictate your life. And that's where we were at. Like, we're going to have to make a decision what's the best for our family. So the people that are still in our life are very few and far between of who was very present in our lives before.
That's super disappointing to hear. I'm sorry.
It's really sad. And like they call it secondary loss. And it's almost as bad as your primary loss. And it's not really talked about that much, but I mean, our kids had a hard time with it. Um, we had a hard time with it. We both like went to counseling. The kids got counseling because you think that these people that like pledge their life to you, like family, it was some family and it was our bestest friends. And then all of a sudden it just kind of all goes up in smoke. But at the end of the day, we both will say we wouldn't trade it for the world because, we have a complete family again. And we have the support of the people that matter most to us. So,
Yeah, I mean, it is surprising, I guess, because I'm just trying to put myself in that position. If I'm a good family friend or a family member, surely it's your life, it's your decision. You're a friend of you individually, but also you as the couple. When you were married. So it is disappointing to hear that, just from, and surprising too. I wanted to ask, was Nick, was Anna talking about life after her, like Cody was with Cassie, in terms of moving on and finding love again?
This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly, I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety, and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month.
No. Again, a very, very different experience. I mean, she would talk about, me and the girls, and she would sometimes mention, me and her family, because her parents were living with us at the time, like at the end, because like I very much needed help because she was pretty much disabled, right before she passed away, and so they were living with us and helping me, take care of the girls and stuff like that. So beyond that, no, there was never a mention of, me marrying someone else or anything like that. So again, that was just another layer of where our experiences were very different. But I will say, even though that was never expressed by her, I always internally knew, even when she died, just that I'm too young to spend the rest of my life, and two, like, I quickly learned my girls will need a mom. Like, as a man, I was, playing mom and dad the best that I could, and we're not designed to play both of those roles. We can try and do our best, but at some point in time, I knew with everything in me that God would provide a wife for me and a mom for my girls, and so I knew that, but again, it kind of went unspoken. So it was, yeah, not the same experience, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Look, I think I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the people that exited us, and I guess from an outside looking in, yeah, super quick. The timeline didn't meet expectations, I guess, from public perception. But in the half an hour that we've spoken to you, you can see why there's context around it, and you'd been talking, each other's situations. It's all on the table. There's not this traditional getting to know people because you kind of know everyone, your backstories and the baggage, as you mentioned, Cassie, what is coming with, each other's baggage and what's there out in the open. So, the conversations that you guys have, no one's privy to that. So it makes sense, as I said, in the half an hour that we've spoken to you, that you got together and the timelines. I mean, it doesn't really matter because you knew each other intimately. For people that would possibly find themselves in similar positions. I mean, Cassie, you were very public in how you reached out and were helping people. What advice would you give to people that, maybe in your situation, Nick, that aren't necessarily looking for it, but know that that's something that they want for themselves, for their families? How do they find? Is it jump on and create a Facebook profile and reach out to people? What does that look like?
So I've actually had multiple people reach out to me. I've had friends who have passed away from cancer, or people that I have gotten to know. Like, the internet's weird, right? Like, you think that you know people because you follow their story, and so, like, people have gotten comfortable reaching out and asking me questions, and I am pretty much an open book. Like, I want to um, give value to other people and help them. But I mean, I recently had a friend who passed away, probably like 7 months ago. And she reached out to me and she said, what can I do to help, my husband, and her kids? And I told her very specifically, like, these are the things, like, I didn't know at the time, but they were such a blessing to me. Um, and, um, and I, so we've started sharing. So part of Nick marrying me, like, I'm an open book and he's not. And so, like, he has become that because he sees the value that it brings to other people, because we know how alone we felt, both of us. Um, but I tell anybody that I know, like, don't wait until your spouse is sick. Like, have those conversations. Know what their wishes are, and you do the best as a widow or a widower to follow out their wishes. But the other thing that he told me that I try to tell, and I shared this with my friends, like, to tell her husband, is that she trusts him, and that she knows that after she passed away, like, that he was going to make the best decisions that he could, for himself and for their kids. Because when you're married to someone, right, and that's the intention you have with your spouse, is like, I'm going to make the best decisions on a Monday that I can, that involve what my kids are going to eat, what we're going to eat for dinner, and what our life's going to look like. So it's not any different after that person dies. Like, you make the best decisions that you can based on what you think that person would have wanted, but ultimately you're the person there caring for the kids and running the household, and so you just have to do your best and have that. That's what I would tell people, like in a marriage, is have those tough conversations so then you can live guilt free, knowing that you're doing your very best. And at the end of the day, that's all you can do. Because when you're dealing with death and children left behind, and, you know, and then caring for all the people who are grieving that loss too, it's difficult. Um,
Yeah, and I would say to answer your question or add to it, since you asked about the timeline, um, the thing that I find myself saying a lot is that there is no timeline. Everybody's timeline is different. There's no playbook for this. And so I would encourage everybody to that's gone through anything like this or that may experience this in the future and what we've even experienced is their experience was 66 days from diagnosis to death. So you don't have a lot of time to grieve. And I think that's another misconception is that people think the grieving process begins once death happens. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And so the fact that like for me, mine was 3.5 years of ups and downs and like the hills, the valleys, all of it, so like where she spent more time grieving, because they didn't really have time from diagnosis to death. It was like shock, dead, adjust, and now, okay, now grieve. For me, um, again, my experience was different. Like I was grieving Anna while she was still alive, if that
in the
makes
life
sense.
that you were
Yeah,
losing.
because you literally are watching that person slowly fade. And I remember a very specific moment when I was at church by myself, because toward the end there, it was me and the girls by myself. Even though my in-laws were there, they would be at home with Anna, because I still want to take the girls to church and still want to take them to their games and all the things. And so I found myself doing a lot of those things already by myself. And I remember like clear as day that moment in church with my two girls worshiping and just like thinking, this is it. Like, this is what my life is going to look like, And so you're preparing for it. And, no one wants to say that out loud, but I think you're being inauthentic if you don't say that. And so, like, I was grieving well before Anna passed away,
Mhm.
and that's why for me, that whole 6 month timeline, like, it's like, man, I was grieving well before
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Like I had almost more time to prepare for this, and so that's what I would encourage is like, don't judge people, when you haven't walked through their shoes, and that's with anything in life. And I think we've learned that now is like, we're not as quick to speak about certain situations about people. If I have not walked in your shoes, then I'm not going to be as fast to speak on that or have an opinion, and so because we know what that feels like on this side. And so I would encourage anybody is like, you just do what you feel led to do, because there is no playbook for it, and there is no timeline. It could be 2 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, it could be 6 years, but there's no right or wrong in that. And so that's what I would tell people, to encourage them is don't worry about what the world says. Everybody's going to have their opinions, as we all know, on whatever it is that you're doing. But you got to make the best decision for you, and your kids and your family. That's it.
Yeah. You had that, Nick, you had that 3.5 years of anticipatory grief that we've spoken to a lot of guests about on this podcast. So you're right, the 6 months is absolutely irrelevant, or whatever that timeline might be that people perceive is should be the case. There's no shoulds, as Ryan says a lot on this podcast. Cassie, for you, that 60 days or 61 days, was that did you mention that was Cody driving those conversations that you didn't necessarily want to have about life
Yeah,
after?
no, it was. He sat me down probably 3 days before he passed away, and that's when he really started hitting me with like, I want you to marry again. And I actually told him to shut up. And I never talked to him like that because I was super respectful of like, he's a man. But I was like, you shut up. You're not going to tell me that. And he was like, yes, I need you to listen to me. He said, that's what I want for you because I love you that much that I don't want you to be a widow for the rest of your life. It's not fair. You have your whole life ahead of you. And then, he called his brothers and my dad and his dad into his bedside and told them the same thing. And then he also told his best friend like a lot of things, like a lot of words of wisdom that he wanted him to give me, like, after kind of the dust had settled. And so I have that all written out because all he could do was talk. So they recorded him and had it, transcripted into a letter for me that was given to me after he passed away. But we did have those conversations because it was not good. Like there was absolutely no denying that death was imminent for him unless if there was a miracle. Like, so, um, and we had those conversations with our kids too. So, my trade is I'm a nurse practitioner. So like I deal in medicine a lot. And when he got the diagnosis, I mean, I broke down and I fell on the floor in the hospital room and I looked at him and I told him, I said, "You're gonna die." And he said, "I know. And I'm not worried about me at all because I know where I'm going. All I'm worried about is you and the kids. So I'm going to fight this disease, but it's not for me. I'm fighting for you." And that was his perspective the entire time. And so we went home that night from the ER and we woke up the kids and we told them, like, Dad is really, really sick. And he's probably not going to make it, but we're going to do everything we can because he wants to fight for y'all because he loves you. And it's going to be painful and it's going to look really bad. But we're going to do everything we can to save our family. But in the end, like, we know that he's going to heaven. And it'll be my, passion to make sure that we all go to heaven someday. And that's what he ultimately asked me at the end is you find a man to replace that drive, knowing like I want to see my kids someday. And so yeah, because it was so quick, I think we knew that we didn't have time to waste.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I think we've had, unfortunately, and fortunately, at the same time, we've had a lot of guests on the podcast that haven't had that time, and I guess there is that sense of urgency around having those types of conversations versus a lengthy battle and maybe not talking about it because there is that hope that they'll get through it. In terms of advice, we've spoken about prior to them passing by having those conversations and planning effectively for the future. What about post your loved ones passing, if there's someone there? And I'm sure you've had people reach out to you, Cassie, especially around now that I've lost the love of my life, someone that you've known since you were 15 or whatever it might be, a long-term relationship with children. What does that look like? Advice you would give to a single parent that maybe hasn't yet found someone in their life
Yeah.
to marry and live with? What does that look like?
So I think the biggest thing is like when you have kids, you can't stop, right? Like they still need you and they're watching everything that you do. And part of the way that kids heal is by watching you and learning and like seeing you be sad and grieve, but also be able to, find joy and be happy and laugh. Like as a widow, you feel guilty laughing. You do. Like I remember Cody passed away, and a week later, like me and the kids were like belly aching laughing, and we all kind of looked at each other like, gosh, like that's a sin. You can't do that. But um my advice to people would be you have to take one day at a time. You can't look too much into the future because when you try to think about like the big things, like, oh my gosh, like our daughters aren't going to have their dad to walk them down the aisle, or, that's immediately where people jump, but it's in the everyday things that are actually the hardest. But you just have to wake up on a Monday and tackle Monday, and then do the same thing on Tuesday. And there really is no there's not much help out there. So Nick and I are actually writing a book to kind of give our whole playbook on this, because we have had so many people, ask us like, how were you able to grieve so well? And I mean, grieving well means that you're actually grieving. You're going through it. Like you have to go through the whole 5 stages of grief. You have to cry, you have to be mad. Um, you have to be confused and question, why did this happen to me? Um, you can't just pretend like it didn't happen, because if you do that, then your grief is delayed. Like you have to go through it in order to get to the other side of grief. And I mean, there's not a day that goes by that like we don't think about Cody or Anna, but they don't bring us sadness anymore. Like we talk about them in a way that um they how they once were and who they were and the legacy that they left behind, not the sadness anymore. So it does shift eventually. um the love never goes away for that person, but they become a legacy instead of a living being, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Sure.
For you, Nick, I guess similar vein, but we've mentioned playbooks a couple of times, and this is not surprising with your background, Nick. But to put it into, I'm going to do this poorly because we've different football codes over here. But if you had a playbook for a single dad, what is the go-to play that's going to get you those yardages, and then what's the special play that you would bring out? I guess when you're in the
Fourth
midst
down,
of
the Hail
yeah,
Mary.
yeah. What's the Hail Mary play?
The Hail Mary.
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My Legacy Message: be
The Hail
remembered.
Mary. So we've mentioned a couple times now that both of us like lean heavily into our faith. And so for me, like I personally had been part of my testimony is I've been walking with Jesus since I was 16 years old. And I think it's something, like I lived it, but I had never lived through something like this. And for the first time in my life, not the first time, but I was at the realest moment in my life. And I say it like this is, after Anna died, you either are going to run to or you're going to run away from Jesus. And even people that we've like come across in similar, they're wrestling with that, because I don't think there is any more middle ground anymore. And a lot of people get angry and a lot of people like where I, I didn't get angry, and I'm not saying that to shine a light on me, but that is part of the playbook that I would say is like you have to make a choice, and it starts with that first, and it's not even just choosing Jesus. Let's say they don't believe in Jesus, then I would say it like this. I would say you still have to choose to live, because for me, my girls needed me. My staff needed me. I knew I had an entire team, a program of 300 kids that were looking in a community that was going to watch to see, all right, we know what he claims. We know what he's claimed this entire time, but now what is he going to do now that this has actually happened? And yeah, that could put, this external weight or whatever pressure, but it really wasn't. It was like, because it did, it made me look in the mirror and like, what do I really believe? And if I believe this to be true, then this is what I'm going to live, and I'm going to choose to live, because I don't have any other choice, because I can't just fold up and quit, and feel sorry for myself, because there's so many people that are counting on me still. My girls being the most important. That was it. It made it easy. Like there was nothing else to think about. It's just put them first. I put, well, Jesus, then my family, and everybody else kind of fell in. So if that, I guess basically what I'm trying to say is I put myself last in that scenario, because when we sink to those places of depression or feeling sorry for ourselves, it's, like we're focused on ourselves. And not to say that I haven't done that before, but it was a very conscious decision to choose, like, I gotta focus on them and showing up each and every day for them. And so that goes back to that day by day mentality that Cassie was talking about. And that's very much how I approached it, with no timeline, no anything for when a woman may present itself. And I even give this illustration. We have this painting literally hanging in our house, that she was 16 when she had it made for us. But I told our family, like, once we got together, that God gave me this very clear vision of me standing at the base of this mountain with my two girls looking at the top. And I'll never forget it. It wasn't a dream. It was just, I don't know, like, it was just this vision that he gave me of everybody's going to have an opinion along the way. You're going to get opinions from everywhere of, like, what to do, how to parent your kids, like what all the things, but fix your eyes on me and I'll get you over to the other side. And that was it. And like, and I remember that. And that was my focus. That was the game plan, if you will, is like, all right, here we go, girls. Like, it's just us. And we're going to fix our eyes on Jesus. And what I say now is Cassie and her kids were on that other side of the mountain. And so that's the painting. It shows us, me and the two little girls on one side, and it shows them on the other side waiting. But in the beginning, we had no idea that that's what was on the other side. And so that's what I would say as an encouragement, is just our job is just to faithfully walk day by day by day. That's it. Because God has much bigger, larger plans for us. And I would say we're living proof of that.
You've answered it well, both of you, individually. A bit of a different conversation today, generally, and the guys might agree. Hopefully, will agree with me here. I'd love to have you back individually to really talk about Cody and Anna individually, and remembering them as people, because I think this has been a wonderful conversation around how families and individually and as a couple you've dealt with grief and your own journeys differently. Cassie's, yours was quite quick, and Nick, yours was over a span of 3.5 years. But love to have you back individually and talk about Anna and Cody individually, if you're open to that. But I guess from as a couple now and as a family, being together for a while, what is that? What do you think that Cody and Anna, looking down from heaven, what are they? What are you thinking they would think about the life that you've created, and finding each other? I guess is a question I'm stumbling around.
I mean, I think that they obviously I didn't know Anna, but I can speak to Cody like I have done exactly what he wanted in his lifetime for me to do. And I tell Nick all the time, like, they would have been best friends, because very similar in the way that they're actually very different people, but very similar in the way that they both are super strong in their faith and good leaders, um, good husbands, great fathers, like, um, and so I know that he would just be so proud and thankful that I mean, if you look at our kids, I think they are the telltale sign of, because we can give you lip service all day long, right? Like adults will tell you like my life is perfect and things look great. But like if you look at our kids, it is absolutely a blessing. So my four kids are older. They were older. Um, and he had two little girls. And we don't say that either. Like, we don't say my kids, his kids. Like, we do when we're talking to people so that you understand. But, like, it's so beautiful. And, like, I sit back and a lot of times I just, like, it almost brings me to tears because, like, the little one, she's 8 and like her big brother who's 17 will pick her up and throw her on his shoulders and teach her life and help her to grow and like that is beautiful like to see the kids just day in and day out flourishing and that's what would make their parents like I think more proud than anything is to see like your babies are they're not just doing good, they're doing amazing. Like they're growing up to be great people. They all love and know Jesus. They get along so well. Like we always say our family's blended and blessed and we are because you wouldn't know if you saw us, that we were a blended family because they all just love each other fiercely. And I think coming from two families that had the same loss, like you value life so much differently. You value relationships. You don't chase things and money and clout. You just chase your relationships and having deep, meaningful relationships. And so Cody would be so, so thrilled. And I know that he is like because his kids are doing so well, and his wife has a husband who loves her deeply, and is the man that he was praying for before he died. Um, so, speaking from my end, yeah, I know without a doubt.
Yeah, and I would say the same. So even though it was unspoken for us, I mean, Anna and I both, like, we both had a very strong faith. And what I would say is some of the proof in the pudding for us of what Anna would think is her best friend, ironically enough, is one of the few people that chose to stick around. And now her and Cassie are really good friends, and Monica would probably tell you Cassie's her best friend now. And she was breaking down the other day because they're having to move because of coaching, and I don't want to get sidetracked with that, but it was hitting her of just how in a short amount of time how close they've become. Like I've known them for over 10 years, because I coached with her husband for over 10 years. And so like they definitely knew Anna and I for a long time. Because we coached together in Cedar Park. They moved here literally because of us. And we coached together here as well and went to church together, all the things. And they chose to stick around because they see that what a woman she is and how well she loves my girls, and there's no way that they would do that, like if they didn't. And another example they'll share is one of my mentors. I mean, he's much older than me, but I mean, he literally taught our Sunday school class that Ann and I went to and the Pollard, who I just mentioned. We were all in that same small group together. And he's now met Cassie, and him and I still meet almost once a week, and so like those people are still around, and they know that because they've seen our kids, like she said, because you can't fool kids, you really can't. And I think honestly, like that's what did it for the people that know us the best was when they saw the kids, like when Monica saw the kids and the people closest to me saw like, wow, like they're not just good, they're thriving now, because again, been through so much, and now to see them thrive is like a blessing to them to know, like, all right, y'all are good, y'all are doing this well. And so, yeah, that's why I confidently would say that Anna knows her babies are being loved well. There's no question about it, you know. So, I think they both are smiling, looking down from heaven. So,
Knowing the backstory, I get the feeling that Anna's looking down, going, perfect. We had those conversations. It was someone that was, helping us while she was, on Earth going through her battle. So I think, yeah, I mean, just my impression is that she'd be looking down, very happy that you've found each other, and you found a wife that loves you, and you've built this wonderful family together. Thank you both for joining us. We want to be respectful of your time. Thank you for joining us on the podcast and sharing your story and how you have found love and your journey through this, and how you've reached out, and I guess giving people hope that there is life after losing their own love of their lives. That there is potential to meet someone despite the perceived baggage, as you said, Cassie. There is hope and potential there. So, thank you both. This has been a valuable conversation for anyone that loses someone that is quite young, as you said, Cassie. He's 39, I think you said, or maybe he's late 30s. So, um, thank you both. Yeah, for joining us on the podcast. It was wonderful having you both on.
absolutely, yeah.
Thanks for
Thank
having
y'all
us.
so much. Yeah.
Okay.
So, guys, that was Nick and Cassie from San Antonio, just outside San Antonio, Bulverde. Bulverde.
Bulverde.
Bulverde. Yeah. What an
Mm.
interesting chat. So, as I mentioned in the main chat, very different to other conversations we had generally with individuals, obviously, but we did extend the invite to have them individually back to talk about Cody and Anna. Respectively, and talk about memories and stories of them. But together, that was a different conversation, talking about how they were able to find each other, even whilst Anna was still alive and going through her battle, and then what that looks like post their partners passing away. Interesting conversation.
Yeah, it was different. Definitely a different dynamic today, and focusing on that whole experience and that connection, which was really good. Haven't had a lot of that actually. That's pretty unique for us, right?
Very, very unique. I think I can't think of a conversation we've had where it's been so intertwined, even that Anna and Cassie were talking and leaning on Cassie for support. So we definitely haven't had something like that. So another unique story, another unique conversation that we've had.
Yeah, that was unreal.
Luke, you got to add anything to that? You didn't find it interesting, or
yeah, I did. I'm taken back to the first point where we were speaking to them about their timelines and meeting, and how it was such a quick process, and then they've lost friends along the way, and the whole time
that's wild to me.
Exactly. The whole time I'm like, well, clearly they don't want to waste any time. They both, they understand this journey of the whole grief process and how it works. So why waste time if you both know what you want? Like, they're two individual people. Like, well, if you're a friend of theirs, so-called friend of theirs, and you're not happy with what they're doing, nice, you got your own demons to fight, I think, at that point. So, but good on them. Good on Cassie and Nick. They're thriving, I think.
Yeah, that was really disappointing to hear about the abandonment of everybody. Especially coming from somebody whose best friend, his wife has not remarried, but reestablished herself a couple of years later or whatnot with and now they have another kid. You just want what's best for them, and it's awesome, and it's a sort of a similar thing where she's ended up with a friend of ours as well, so somebody that was sort of in the life as well. So
yeah, that's true. You've lived this, Ryan. Like, you've been that external friend that could have, I mean, I couldn't imagine you doing it, but you could have really just gone, that's not right. Well, I don't agree with it. I'm out like that, but I can't see you doing that.
Dude, it never even crossed my mind, honestly. Like, it was just like, I'm just like happy that she's happy, honestly. Like, it's up to her what she want to do. And I didn't feel any sense of anything. Like,
maybe it was a rival school thing. Maybe that's what ticked
maybe it was
people
just
off.
a little too heated.
I mean, generally you don't really feel much of anything, Ryan. There's not much. One in, it doesn't even see the other side.
You can just keep creeping. Just keep
I'm sure
creeping in the
we did talk
background.
about the. Yeah, no, we did talk about the rival school thing. That was an interesting chat in the Patreon. So if you're not part of the Patreon, that's where we spoke about that in a little bit more length, and that was really interesting. And we went on a few different tangents there. So patreon.com/remembering them podcast. Jump on for those exclusive chats. $6 a month US, $9 a month Australian. There's also access to free content on there as well, so you can jump on the website or download the app. A reminder to give the podcast a rating and review, 5 stars ideally. If this conversation you think will help someone else that maybe has lost a partner and is really looking for what does life look like after that, share this episode with them. I'm sure the conversation with Nick and Cassie will be absolutely valuable. Follow us on all of our socials, Remembering Them podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, mainly Instagram. Reminder that we have the My Legacy Message service, mylegacymessage.com.au. We can leave a voice recording, a video recording actually, to your loved one, often a surprise after you pass. And also the partnership with BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/remembering them. 10% off your first month's subscription if you need to speak to a credentialed therapist. And I know in Cassie and her, the recording with her today, she spoke about, counseling and leaning on that support to help her with her grief. So that was a different chat, as we've said a number of times today. It was a very interesting one, and I'm sure it'll help someone else out there. So, but we have looking forward to having Nick and Cassie back individually to talk about Cody and Anna. I'm looking forward to hearing more about them, because I guess the focus today was really on their relationship and how they found each other and have built this wonderful life after losing their respective partners. Any final words, Ryan and Luke?
No, I'm all good. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us on the podcast. Great seeing you both. Happy International B-Day, Ryan. Thank you both for joining me. Looking forward to the next buzz off. Looking forward to the well done, Luke. Looking forward to the next conversation. I love you both. Bye.
Love you.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.